be talking to Supriya Shrinate, who is the social media head of the Congress. She joins us this evening. Supriya, thank you so much for joining on HW. It's always a pleasure having you on the program. But your first thoughts to the interim order which has been given by the Supreme Court. Do you think it has come as a relief, or you feel that there could be something more sinister or nefarious coming in the way of the petitioners when the main order comes in?
Quite frankly, Niluji, I want to set one thing very straight. And I think that's the very basis of all the arguments that we are making and the fight that we are fighting. You mentioned Rahul Gandhi ji. Yes, he's the leader of the opposition. And yes, he's spearheading this. And yes, he did throw a lot of data and proof at the election commission that election commission has no answers to. But this entire fight, and I say this with all honesty, I say this as an Indian, this entire fight is not Rahul Gandhi versus Narendra Modi. It's not BJP versus Congress. It is not even the opposition versus the government or treasury benches. It is actually the fight for that fundamental right, which is one man, one vote, the very basis of our constitution. I mean, what did the founding fathers give? The founding fathers gave each Indian, irrespective of their caste, creed, color, sex, language, region, no matter what, if you are an Indian of votable age, you are going to have the right to vote. I think that is the principle on which the foundations of our democracy is laid down upon. A clean voter list is the very basis and fundamental thing or a foundation required for free and fair elections. What is it that the opposition leaders or people at large asking? Why are people worried? People are worried because for a free and fair election, you need a clean voter list. For a clean voter list, you need to abide by the principle of one man, one vote. And that is being distorted. And when that is distorted, you are actually threatening the whole idea of India and the democracy that we so proudly claim to be ours. And I think that is what the fight is about. I do believe that the Supreme Court's decision today is quite far reaching. I think it puts some things in perspective. It also puts the Election Commission of India in its place, that nobody can it can't be my way or the highway. It can't be what I want to do and I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do this. What did the Supreme Court of India tell the Election Commission to do today? They said you have to publish the names of the 65 lakh people whose names have been deleted, which is nearly 8 to 9% of Bihar's voting population. They have also said you have to publish the reason why you deleted those names. And you have to do this in a digitally readable format. Not just that, they have also said Aadhaar has to be made one of the documents as proof. Now, it is baffling that the same Election Commission before the Supreme Court just a few days back kept saying ad nauseum that we will neither give the names nor are we going to give you the reasons. We live in a democracy. There is accountability. You are a constitutional, you're a constitutional institution. You are accountable for free and fair elections. You are accountable for maximum participation in those elections. Your drive cannot be to delete votes. 65 lakh people almost amounts to 8 to 9% of Bihar's voting population. You made the dead alive. You've declared the alive dead. It can't go on, and you can't say, I'm not going to give you a reason. This is not your drawing room. This is not an arbitrary conversation that you can have. And I think to that extent, it's very welcome, but some very important things still need to be answered, and that fight still needs to be fought. And I think we'll do it. The Supreme Court will see logic in that. So I welcome the Supreme Court's decision. I think it in some ways stems the arrogance of the Election Commission. It also proves what Rahul Gandhi is essentially saying, which is that give us a digital readable voter list that can be publicly audited. What is wrong with that? I mean, how can that minimum transparency not be given or not be ensured by the Election Commission?
Right. But Supriya, don't you think that this interim order could have been easily given by the Supreme Court on day one? Why it took so many days? I'm not saying that let's start questioning Justice Surikant or Justice Joy Mallya Bakshi, but people are discussing this point on the social media that this interim order could have come much, much earlier on day one itself. So do you think that this
I am not going to purge myself or be liable for defamation here of the highest court of the land, but I agree with that view. This could have happened earlier. However, I am going to be honest and candid enough to say that it takes a lot of proof to come to fore before the courts act. some of what happens within the courtroom and some of what happens outside. I am not so sure that justice is oblivion to what's happening outside. And outside, you have the leader of the opposition getting up and giving you proof of how a mandate was stolen, how 1 lakh 250, 1 lakh, over 1 lakh votes were added in a constituency, which resulted in the election result flipping. You also had the leader of the opposition have tea with about 10-15 people who had been declared dead. But guess what? They're alive and they're here to claim their own voting right in the Supreme Court of India. So I think some of that feeds into justice, feeds into decision making. I'm not so sure that the Supreme Court of India or any just judge just confines himself to the arguments being made there. The Supreme Court is the custodian of our rights in many ways. And I
Right. But
think what
I
happens
would
outside does reflect what happens within.
I've been following the SIR hearing very, very closely, Supriya, and you used the word oblivion. And Justice Surikant, in fact, yesterday only, I think it was Gopal Shankar Narayanan when he spoke about Rahul Gandhi's press conference that, in the midst of all this, there was also another expose which was done by Rahul Gandhi. So Justice Surikant says that I'm not aware of any such press conferences. And he did mention that line, and which is why, I was reminded by that line
That's
when
all
you
right.
used
I'm
it.
not going to make a personal comment on it, but that press conference was all over media, social media, mainstream media was forced to cover it because there was such compelling arguments and compelling data and proof that was put forward. So it's all right.